There she is. Hi, Shar.
Hi.
Hey, I'm so glad this worked.
Okay.
Look at you with your lots of designs, pop-up designs behind you. And
Oh my
when
God.
I was getting ready, I was like, I need to have my chin up on. Like,
Get it ready. Okay.
okay, so we will get started. Welcome to our Instagram Live with Pacific Islanders in Publishing. I am Kealani Netane. I'm one of the co-founders. I'm also the author of Tala Learns to Siva, which just came out last week. And we're here with Shar Tuiasoa. She is a world-renowned artist. I can't even list all the places that her art has been. It's too many. But we'll just focus on the books part. So she's the author and illustrator of Punky Aloha, this is my, I need a new version because it's like so beat up. It's very well loved in my house. So we have Punky Aloha, which came out a couple of years ago, and then a book coming out this year, Already All the Love by Diana Farid, and then next year, our Sacred Mountain in Ode to Mauna Kea by Ilima Todd. So you have not foresight, but you have the opportunity to be an author illustrator and just the illustrator. I feel like those are two very different roles.
Yes, absolutely.
So is there anything else you want to share about yourself before we dive in?
I don't even really know what to say. I just love to draw, and I'm so grateful I get to do it every day.
Yeah, I think you're just a beloved person. I feel like now you're a household name. Everybody knows you.
That's great.
Okay, but we'll get into the writing craft. Shar has a bunch of interviews where she's talking about her personal work and all of those things. So actually today we're just going to be talking about illustrator portfolios. And this is a topic that I've really been wanting to get into with Shar because there's so few Pacific Islander book illustrators, especially those that are interested in traditional publishing. And so there are specific expectations that publishers have for illustrators. And us as Pacific Islander creators, we may not know about that. So I wanted to dive into that with Shar a little bit. So first off, our first question is, what is an illustrator portfolio and why do book illustrators need one?
Yes, perfect. So a portfolio for an illustrator is basically just us putting forth our best work to show potential clients, publishers, what we do, like how we execute our work, at what level, and what our skill set is, what our voice is. That's basically what a portfolio is, about 10 to 12 of your best works. And for a book illustrator, it's really important. Like when you make your portfolio in general, it's really important to know what kind of work you want to do. And a book illustration portfolio is like a completely separate. For like my book illustrations versus my freelance work, it's like two separate worlds. And I think it's important to be mindful of that, because when publishers, editors, or writers are looking at your imagery for a book, they want to see how you tell a story, very specifically for children. So a book illustration portfolio is going to be more of like samples of what illustrations would look like in a book, character interactions, and showing them how you tell stories, because you are essentially going to be the voice for the author, and they want to see what your voice sounds like.
So
Yeah.
talking about voice, how do you craft your personal voice into that portfolio?
That always comes down to, like, again, like style. I think this is something, again, that most illustrators talk about. We talked a lot about it in art school, and there was always this like, well, do I show people that I can do anything? Like I can do this style, this style, this style. Will that make me more valuable? Or do I really try to find my specific voice? And I side more with like you can be diverse, but I think it's important I think there's value in having an identity.
Mhm.
And when people come to hire you, they know who you are and what they're going to carve yourself out for them. It's like a teamwork thing, it's a collaborative thing. So having your voice, that looks like just like, hours and hours and hours of drawing and finding the shape languages that help tell stories for you, and understanding like what visual language is and what that is for you. For me, that's like, creating worlds that have rules. I think a big part of style is setting a limitation, rules that you don't break in certain worlds. So like, um let's say you have a world that is happy and joyful. I decide, okay, well, that entire world is going to be curvy and full of circles and a certain color palette, versus a world that's angry and aggressive. That's all going to be triangles and points. You know what I mean? Like creating these visual rules for yourself also shows the publishers that you're mature as an artist, that you're really creating with intention. So I think there's a lot of intention that goes into creating things, and that's a mature step for an artist to take. Yeah.
Yeah, it does take a while to get there. It takes a lot of formulating, failure, and being able to manipulate your art into what you want to see in the world. So, how have you
Yeah.
seen like your failures over time impact who you are now as an illustrator? That's an
So
intense
many
question.
failures. I think it's just, you go into you try your best every time you're creating artwork, but sometimes early on if something's just not going to work out, or you create something and it could be days later where you're just like, God, that just wasn't great, and I don't like the way this feels. Like, I don't like people thinking like I'm terrible at my job or something, like I don't like people thinking like this is the stories I want to tell. And just kind of taking that with me every time and just remembering, okay, like put that in my tool belt, like do not ever do this again, or don't sacrifice this again, or learn to speak up. I think that's a big one. Like when you are the visual artist and you're working with a team, and sometimes you're like, well, it's important that we have this element and this element in there, or take this out. But if like, listen, this was intentional, this is a part of the story, like don't be afraid to like push back a little bit and explain to them why it's there, and then they might understand like, oh, okay, well, if that's really important to keep in there, then I think finding your voice is something you learn along the way, because at times when I didn't speak up, I ended up with just like this messy illustration that I was really embarrassed about. And I feel like that's something I take with me, is like speaking up for myself when I feel it's necessary, just being brave enough to do that. Yeah, it just like I think again, like it's also really being ready and accepting failure, getting it not excited to fail, but just accept that that's like a big part of the journey, is failing and learning and failing and learning, and like get excited about the fact that you are learning when you fail.
Mhm.
Um and it hurts much less the more you do it.
I love that. It's so similar to writing. There's so much of my writing that have just been trashed. I'm like, oh, forget it. Like, this is terrible.
But you got it out, right? Like you
Yeah,
need
but
to
I
get
got
it
it out.
out to see that it's terrible.
There's an outlet, and there's a
You,
purpose to that outlet, I feel
yeah,
like. Because then it helps you to get to that place where you're able to produce quality work.
yeah.
So, my next question, what is your back to the Illustrator portfolios? There's so many things that we have to choose. So, you said we should have about 10 to 12
Mhm.
images. So, what is your best advice for choosing what to include and what not to include?
Yeah, again, so book illustration portfolios are sort of specific. So, and I don't have all the answers, but I know that what I've always seen and what I've been told is they want to see character interaction. That's a really big one. They want to see emotions, like very exaggerated emotions. They want to see sad, like if your character is sad, they want to feel sad. If your character is happy, they want to see joy, and being able to express that. And I think in a children's book illustration portfolio too, it's important to show not just a finished illustration page, but maybe a page of character design of one character doing different things, running, jumping, feeling different emotions, sketches, like really a strong sketch page. I think that's appropriate. And I think if you're completely lost, go to your bookstore, go to your nearest locally owned bookstore, and go pick up some children's books that you like, that you love, that you admire, and look in their pages and say like, okay, like let's just take a line from this book and I'm going to illustrate it my way, make a mock portfolio. Um, yeah, but submit work that looks like pages that you want to see in a book. But I think a big thing is like getting your hands on children's books and finding illustrators that you admire and seeing how they problem solve, like find inspiration that way without copying them, but find inspiration in how other illustrators problem solve and how they tell stories, and see how you can find your own voice that way. But yeah, oh, and animals. Sorry, animals are a popular one for children's books. So, yeah, animals, even inanimate objects, just have fun. Like, remember that you're world building, like jump inside your little imagination noggin there and draw the world that exists in there and have fun with it.
I think one thing I would just add is landscapes.
Thank
So,
you.
including water. I'm saying that because these are the things that I look for when I look at Illustrator portfolios. I look at all those things, especially the emotion between characters,
Yeah.
landscapes, buildings, cities, like anything, city, water,
Yeah.
mountains, all those.
Yeah. I think too, and I don't know if this is something we're gonna cover, but um just you can be such a good artist, and maybe you make art that is like goes on bags, and you draw a bunch of fish or animals, so you're a good drawer, you're a good illustrator, you're great at what you do. But if you don't have a dedicated portfolio for children's book illustrations, for the most part, no, a publisher and editor is not really going to look at your stuff. You just kind of have to be show up prepared. It's so important, like just dedicate some time little by little to have something ready when they're looking.
Yeah. And art directors are looking, I will say. They're
Yes,
very much
yes,
online.
they're very much online, and I think this is such an important thing, especially for the underrepresented communities in children's book, us being one of the most underrepresented Pacific Islanders, is that um I always say to greet opportunity with preparation. That's something that was told to me a long time ago. That's something I live like. That's my motto. Is like opportunities will come, and you never know when they're coming and who they're coming from. And when they come, they might just come once. So you better be ready. And I think there's been a lot of times where personally I've been approached for books for large publishing houses for really cool opportunities that are specifically for Pacific Islanders. They want a Pacific Islander illustrator, and I can't take it because I'm too busy or something. And they're like, okay, great. Like, can you give us some names of Pacific Islander illustrators with portfolios? Like, and it's really hard. You have to dig deep. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so important for us to just be prepared, be ready for it, because we have such great stories we want to tell, and we should be the ones telling them. So, our part in that, in the part we play in that, is being prepared and getting down, getting in your sketchbooks and making the portfolios. So, when they come knocking, you're ready. Like they're ready. They wanna hear our stories, we just have to be ready to tell them.
Yeah, and for people who aren't sure where to put their portfolios, what would you say?
So I personally think it's important to have a landing page, have a website. You can get, I mean, I think you can get Squarespace for, I don't know if like, I don't know, you can get a website for free to cheap, I think. And I think it's good if you have a landing page like a .com that you can send people to that have, you know, your strong images up there, your 10 to 12 images up there, your works in progress up there, and it gives all your information and everything. If be, if you absolutely can't have a website, then treat a social media page as your portfolio. That's free marketing. And again, that's how I got my first book deal, was because my editor found me on Instagram. And I treat my social media page very much as a portfolio. Even though I have an actual portfolio on a website, I treat my Instagram specifically as my portfolio. I don't put a bunch of like family photos up there. I don't take crappy pictures of like half-assed sketches and put it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm really intentional about it. And I consider like what art directors are looking at this, you know, like who's really looking at this. And if you can't get a website, I would say that's your next best bet. But find some way, or even if you have a PDF prepared, like you can just do that. You can just have a PDF ready to go and send it to people like Kealani, who runs pages. That's, you know, is like a landing page for a lot of people. I've sent art directors to the publishing page, the Pacific Islanders and publishing page, and they were like, holy cow, like, look at all these Pacific Islanders, you know, like, get in your community. And if you can only just put together a PDF of your 12 images and just have it ready for when someone comes knocking, like, just have it ready. And yeah, that's my biggest advice, is to just have something ready to share, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. I've received the same advice too. Is just be prepared when people come.
Just, you never know. You never
Yes.
know.
Um,
Yeah.
so we talked about a little bit about that preparation to be prepared. Are there any other advice that you received early on in your career that has been the most helpful for you now?
I think it all comes down to that. Yeah, being prepared is a big one for me. Another one, I think that I shied away from a lot when I was first coming up studying art, was that I was always afraid to look at other people's artwork because I didn't want to be influenced or something ridiculous like that. So, um, I think a big piece of advice for me is to look at other people's artwork, you know, dive in, obsess over it, you know, like I can't stop looking at it, and I'm not looking at it so I can copy it. I'm just looking at it to feel inspired, to be immersed in art, to be admiring other people who are also obsessed with art. So a big piece of advice is to immerse yourself in this world, be obsessed with it. Buy children's books, go to the library and borrow children's books, you know, like just be about it. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
it. And draw. That it's like I think if it's difficult for you to sit down and draw, like if it's painful for you to sit down and draw, maybe we need to think about finding a way to express yourself that is fun, because maybe drawing's not it. You could do paper cutouts, maybe writing is it, but be in love with what it is that you want to do, because if you start getting busy, you're going to be doing it all the time.
And there are different mediums for children's books.
Yeah,
So like
totally.
Char said, there's paper cutouts, like some I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there are,
Christian
yes,
Robinson.
there you go.
Well, I came prepared. Christian Robinson, who's one of my favorites, and he does a lot of paper cutouts that he paints over. He has so much fun. Ryan Riller, he's a Disney gallery artist, cutouts, and they're incredible. You
Oh,
know what I mean? It's such a
Demora,
fun way.
she's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't have to be pen to the paper. Sorry, John Klesson. Here's another one. You know, he has a lot of fun with different materials. Like, it doesn't have to be drawing. Like, there's no rules. You can do photography. I mean, like, it's storytelling. You know what I mean? The world is your oyster.
And that's a big part of picture books, is that there's the text and there's the pictures. So they're in conjunction with each other telling the story.
Exactly.
So sometimes in illustration there's a whole layers upon layers of other stories going on while the text is being written.
Yeah.
So Shar is completely correct there. Illustrators are storytellers.
Thank you.
One thing we didn't touch on yet is feedback.
Mm,
So, how do people get feedback from their art, especially their portfolios? Is that a big part of illustrators? I know it's a huge part for writers, but I'm not sure about illustrators.
yeah, I super think, I mean, it's a little bit harder to access, I think, if you're not in an academic setting where you have professors, teachers, and classmates all in that same world, all just kind of analyzing your artwork. So if you aren't able to go to art school, and you don't have to, if you know you're going to YouTube University, then you need to reach out to your community. I think community is should be at the forefront of everyone's mind all the time, anyways. And that looks like different things. And sometimes when you lean on your community, it's for feedback. You know, like look at your local artists, reach out to any like people reach out to. I'm down. Like send me your portfolio. I'm down to look at it. You know, or connect with you guys. I think that's important. There's any number of ways. Reach out to artists that you like and just simply ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, like, hey, can you just look at my stuff and tell me what you think? Or can you look at this one image and tell me how I can elevate it or what's wrong with it? Um, and I will tell you that a lot of us artists love to talk about art. It is our favorite thing to do. So, like, don't tempt me with a good time. You know what I mean? But also be sure to grow a thick skin and understand, too, that when you're getting that feedback, it's all love. It's not to make you feel like you're bad at what you're doing. It's really it's like, oh, okay, we want we want you to be your best self too. Like I see an issue here, an issue here, and fix it. And look at that as an opportunity to grow. So don't be afraid to ask and have your work dissected a little bit. And yeah, it's always all love, and we all just want to elevate each other. If you're in the right community, you guys want to elevate each other at least.
And I think too with feedback is that the people who are giving the feedback, it's not that they are critiquing so harshly, but it's that, as you said, they want you to elevate. But it's also up to the artist, however they take that critique,
Exactly.
and it's their vision. We're just giving our opinions. We have lots of opinions.
Exactly. Exactly. Sometimes you just be like, okay, like I totally disagree. You know what I mean? And that's up to you. That's on you. You know. But it's a good way to grow your friendship circle too, just meeting other artists and like-minded people who want to geek out over children's books and illustration or storytelling in general. Yeah, it's a great way to feel like you're safe and that you're supported.
So, what advice do you have specifically for Pacific Islanders who want to go into book illustrating?
Please do it. My advice, yeah, is I think is to just find a way to find time to make that portfolio. And please understand that we are storytellers. That is our culture. That is who our ancestors were. And it's kind of it's a little sad that we're so underrepresented in the storytelling space. So that's kind of like take that as like your responsibility. You know what I mean? Like we have to do this. And to do that, we have to put in the work. And if sometimes it's a little difficult, reach out. But my advice for Pacific Islanders specifically is to make a portfolio, even if you start out with 5 images, even five, that's better than nothing. And take yourself seriously. We belong in this arena, and we have yet to tell even just a small fraction of the stories out there. You know, like stories from our past, stories right now, and stories in the future. We've got so much to share, and we're just barely starting. So, like, get in there. We're all like there's just room for so many. You know, that's what I think.
There really is, and I feel like publishers, like you said, are really looking for our work. They are looking at for our illustrators. I've talked to a couple art directors, and they're very interested in our art. They just haven't seen portfolios that follow those specific expectations that you have that Shar has laid out for us here today.
Yeah, I would love, I mean, if there's ever an opportunity for like a children's book workshop, let me know. Maybe it's something we can all, work on. I mean, but yeah, never be afraid to DM me. I'm always down to like look at stuff. Most of us are. Yeah.
Yeah, we did have one question that wasn't about book illustration, but the person asked, "Can you ask Shar if we wanted to paint a mural on our wooden garage door, what kind of medium should we use?"
I love it. Wood. I would say prime it and use just house paint. House paint's great. I use house paint, yeah, I think that's good enough. Easier that like color match over there and buy you can use sample paints. I don't know, yeah, house paint's fine. I paint most of my murals with house paint. It's good enough.
There you go. That's the tea on what paint to use.
Yeah.
Anything else you would want to share? Actually, I do have one more question about book illustration. So you were an author illustrator for Punky Aloha, and then
Mhm.
you have just the illustration side, and you didn't do the text for your next two books. So what are the differences between doing the text and then not doing the text?
Oh, doing well, obviously, like being the author and the illustrator was a lot easier. It was freeing. I mean, it was like a story about me. So what is the art director gonna say? Like, no, sure, that's not your vision. You know what I mean? Like, it was more free, and I kind of just like showed them what I wanted to do, and they're like, great, just make a few changes here and there, and we're off. But when you're working with somebody else, right, the author, of course, has their own vision, and the publishers and the editors kind of have things that they want to see too, and maybe a certain finish or stuff that you might like, oh, like, but my vision is this, and they're like, well, our vision is this, so you have to just let go a little bit, as you always do when you're working with a client. And I'll say it's a little intimidating because like certainly, especially working on something like with Ilima for something so serious and powerful as the Mauna Kea protests is like, oh, I just want her to be happy with it. I want the community to be happy with it. Like, I really, really want to get this one right, so that the pressure can be a little overwhelming. And I think you just have to like pace yourself a little bit with that. But yeah, it's a push and pull. It's a lot of work, but you learn a lot through that process. Yeah, being able to translate somebody's beautiful words into imagery that hopefully like elevates it. Oof, a lot of pressure, but it's fun. It's a fun challenge.
I'm so excited for your two books that are coming out. I
Oh,
can't wait. If you didn't
thank
know
you.
already, All the Love is a board book, and then in Ode to Mauna Kea is a regular picture book. So exciting. Let me double check if anybody else had questions. But that's all the questions I had for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
I can't think of anything. I'm just really excited that we're at this place now, like, I mean, our kids are going to grow up seeing Pacific Islander books on all the bookshelves across the world, and I think that's a really exciting time to get into the space of storytelling.
Yeah, it's so exciting. So we do have a question from Karina. So it says, as an illustrator, do you have to know book formatting before you create your illustration portfolio? That's a great question.
Ooh, I haven't had to personally. I don't know how all publishers work. The publishers I've worked with kind of spaced it for me for the most part, which is extremely helpful. They have like a page designer that paces the story for you, or the author will. I don't know if you did you pace your own book.
I didn't. I'm too intimidated to do that, but
Me too.
we're gonna let the
Me
professional do that.
too. No, I think if you're independently publishing your book, you're going to have to, because you have to basically do all the work. But if you're working with a publisher, for the most part, I think they have designers that will pace it for you, and they send you the template, and even they give you an idea of where everything's going to be placed, and you just illustrate around it. So, but you can also have say, like, I think it's more powerful if this line is there and there, but I don't think you have to worry about that unless you're publishing independently.
Yeah. And most picture books are either 32 pages or
Hmm.
40 pages.
Yeah.
So they'll lay out that whole template for you, and then you just have to come up with sketches and ideas for your illustrations. We have another question from Jacob. He said, how can non-Pacific Islander artists best support our Pacific Islander
Oh.
friends?
Aw. I don't know. I feel like we just support each other just by being in community. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to say other than it's always good to like check when you see something's missing from a space. I don't know how else to say it, you know, like if you see a API list, for instance, that are missing the PI, you know, feel free to say something. But I don't know, the best way to support is just to support any way we would support each other. Just, you know, be excited for us, lift us up, and we'll lift you up too, you know?
Yeah, that's the best thing about our community is we're so community oriented
Yeah.
that when someone's our friend, we're like, oh yeah, come
Yay!
on, let's be
Come
friends.
on, come play.
Okay, so I think that's all the questions we have for you, unless something comes up. But we're hoping that this IG Live will save. I've never saved an IG Live before, so we'll see how good my
So,
technological skills are. We'll see. But thank you so much, Shar, for coming on live with us today.
of
And we will
course.
definitely be in conversation about different development opportunities or workshops that we can do together to help have more Pacific Islander book illustrators in our industry. So, yes, that's it. Have a great
Okay.
afternoon.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you,
Okay.
Shar. Bye.
Bye. We will.